What if the problem with our education wasn't funding or policy or testing, but purpose? I'm Matt Rose, and today you're joining me for a short video on a very talked about topic in today's world, which is education reform. We're going to take a look at what's broken and what we can fix, and how we can take a biblical Christian worldview and use it to carve a better path forward, to offer more solutions. A solution that sees students not just as numbers or as testing scores, but as real people who have real purposes in this life. So let's get right into it. Educational reform is about improving the quality of life of instruction so that schools prepare students not only for jobs, but also for life, civic responsibility, moral character, and personal growth. The problem is, reform is pretty complex, and there's a lot of people who are affected by it, including families, students, teachers, policymakers, administrators, which just makes the problem more complex. I mean, if you go into it for decades, this problem has been debated. What is the best solution? What should we do moving forward? These questions that educational reform brings up are obviously not just about policy. They're obviously not just about the students, and they're obviously not just about the teachers or the people in charge. They're about your worldview. They take it all back to what really matters, about what really is at stake. What really is happening is, what are you thinking about, and why are you thinking it, and why do you want to think it? Your worldview. Your worldview is the center of everything you base your life on. And if we look at history, America's education has evolved. It's evolved through waves and waves of reform. From like the common movements in like the 1800s to the desegregation in the 20th century, to now we fight today over like testing and what's right for my student. Despite all the effort the world has put into education, we still see gaps tied to social achievement, economical backgrounds. We see data showing that under-resourced schools consistently underperform, while students with access to like tech and to real resources, they thrive. Students with home support, they thrive. Education goes deeper than the classroom. It goes to the family, it goes to the teachers. Education is a worldwide effort. It's not just for teachers, it's not just for administrators. Everyone has to participate. You have to be like, you're a parent at home, you have to be like, yo, little Timmy, what's 4 + 4? And he's like, 8. You can do that if you want. That's not what it means. Finland is a great example in my study. For example, every teacher in Finland is required to have a master's degree. Curriculum is designed locally for the children of Finland, and education is free at every single level. Free as in classes, free as in meals, free as in materials, everything is provided. Finland's success reminds us that good teachers and equal opportunity matter more than standardized systems or standardized tests or the easy data we have. Research also shows us what works in learning. Studies prove that consistent feedback improves retention and critical thinking. Early childhood programs can shrink the achievement gaps, the gaps between what you're accomplishing in life. Whenever you are in a program as a child, whether that be even Sunday school or like a after school program or you're in like a homeschool group, even those groups can shrink success gaps by a very large margin, which is surprising to me. I didn't know that. Our classrooms, typically in America, we waste resources and we waste time and we waste energy on things that do not work. For example, learning styles. This new thing has been going around that there are verbal learning styles and there's visual learning styles. There's almost no science to back that up. There's almost no data to back that up. There's really no such thing as a learning style. Teachers are giving students an excuse to not listen or to listen, to learn or not to learn. What teachers really need to be doing is to develop real strategies that benefit everyone in the classroom, not just the visual, verbal learners. Because we also have to respect the limits of a student. Students are humans and they're children. They can only process so much before they lose attention and memory and they forget what it means to receive information. So when we overload them, we don't accelerate learning, we just block it. nothing happens when we overload learning. Reform that ignores human development isn't reform at all. It's a waste of time. This is where the worldview matters the most. Many reforms are built on utilitarian ideas, seeing education as a way to produce workers for the economy. But a biblical worldview, it goes so much deeper than your career. To quote the Bible, Proverbs 4:7 states that the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it costs all you have, get understanding. In God's eyes, learning isn't just a means to an end. It's an act of stewardship, it's an act of worship, and it's an act of caring. If every student is created in the image of God, then education should reflect that. It should reflect equity and dignity and opportunity and trying. Reform isn't about systems, and it's not about policies. It's about souls. It's about people. It's about teaching people. Sometimes we understand reform and its aspects and its importance through stories. Movies like Matilda or School of Rock best show what happens when students and teachers push back against the broken systems and work together to actually learn. Not only in a fun environment, but also an environment that promotes real learning. Art, like movies, it gives us empathy to see, it gives us empathy to feel, and it lets us feel the human side of education. Education isn't just about facts, it's not just about knowledge, it's not just about getting a 4.0, it's also about the person. Sometimes policymakers and rulemakers and lawmakers, they forget that. They forget that creative storytelling can really influence like the understanding, and like it can inspire real change. Like School of Rock is one of my favorite movies of all time because it low-key makes me want to be a teacher. When students share their experiences, we see the heart of the issue more clearly. When students show that there is a problem, we see that there's a problem. First, reform has to be student-centered, not government-centered and not policy-centered. It can't be centered on making money, but rather focus on helping educators better teach and care for their students. It needs to be about the students themselves. Second, schools must align with human development and evidence-based learning, providing consistent feedback, rest, and realistic expectations that benefit everyone. Third, reform must pursue equity, ensuring every child, regardless of background or current state, has access to quality teachers and quality resources. Number 4, finally, faith communities and Christian educators should take the lead. We should take the lead in mentorship and community programs that bridge academic and emotional gaps. Education is not just about the grades, it's about forming people of purpose, people of wisdom, and people of compassion, people who are people, not just people who can get good grades. Education reform will always be a complex, wicked problem, but complexity shouldn't lead to despair and it shouldn't lead to just arguing. When we combine data, creativity, faith, and history, we get a clearer picture of what true learning can really look like. Reform at its heart is about renewal, trying new techniques to teach, trying new techniques to lead, trying new techniques to see each student individually. It's about renewing how we look at people, how we look at teaching, how we look at curriculum, how we look at education as a whole. As Christians, we're called to be part of that renewal. We're called to bring justice and understanding and hope to the classroom. Not just the students either, also the teachers. Because when we reform education with wisdom and compassion, we don't just change schools, we change lives. Thank you.